Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Politics, as we know in a democracy particularly, is about the numbers. And one of the eternal controversies in Indian public debate, public discourse, in Indian folklore, popular arguments among the pundits and PhDs and DSCs and D-Lits of WhatsApp University. But this is a debate that dominates our political arguments now, is whether the number of Muslims is rising much faster in India than Hindus, and in the course of time, in a not such an unforeseeable future, but in a foreseeable future, Muslims will outnumber Hindus, or they'll become so close to the Hindu population that India will become an Islamic dominated country. If not an Islamic country, then all the stereotypes come in that all the Muslims will vote together, Hindus will be divided, Muslims will rule India, and India will cease to be a democracy, because India can only be a democracy and a secular state as long as the Hindus are in a majority. So I am not endorsing any of this. I am just setting up the debate which we are trying to answer today, as usual, with data. Because what we do is we use data and facts. Particularly in CutTheClutter, we keep opinion out, and when we give opinion, we warn you, we give you a health warning, and we alert you. So if you look at data, what is the picture that data is telling us? And we have data to tell us what is a fact, what is not a fact. And I'll be honest with you, as usual, or at least I'll try to be as honest as the facts that I have inform me, that there might be some truth, some little sliver of truth, maybe a little bit of smoke to justify some arguments, but this is just a little bit of smoke, and that smoke is actually dying out. So what is the smoke? That yes, since 1951, the population of Muslims has been rising a little faster than that of the Hindus. So that is the smoke. So to say that no, it's absolutely wrong, that Muslims are not rising in numbers faster than the Hindus, that's wrong. And to hide a truth doesn't help anybody, least of all the cause of Indian secularism or liberalism. Secular, whether you're secular, liberal, as we must be, we are a secular country as our constitution defines us, and our constitution also gives us equality, freedom of religion, then we must also be informed by facts. There is no point hiding away from the facts. So it's true that since 1951, if you see the data from census after census, we have decennial censuses every 10 years, then it shows that Muslims have been rising in numbers a little bit faster than the Hindus. Now we have all these data compiled and also then cross-checked. So two sources, and both of these are Indian official sources. One is the Indian Decennial census. We have a census every 10 years. Unfortunately, this year's census could not take place because of COVID, because preparation has to begin much earlier, and last year preparation could not begin, and hopefully it will happen next year, and we'll get data now also. So we have data until 2011. But with that, if you also see that in the light of the data that is thrown up by very extensive national family health surveys, that's also by the government of India. If you look at both these sets of data, you can arrive at many conclusions. And a big service has been done once again, just as Pew Research have produced this marvelous survey on religious beliefs in India, on religion in India. They have now produced this study on population growth among different religions in India, or the growth of different religions in India. And what this data does is, this data answers many questions, and this data cuts into many of today's current debates with facts. So what are these debates? Muslims are rising much faster in number than the Hindus. A lot of Hindus are converting to Islam and Christianity, so obviously numbers of Christians also must be zooming, and Hindus must be declining. Then a lot of conversion is taking place. So many of these questions, the best way is to look at data, because sunshine is the best disinfectant. So take everything out in the open, and data is in the open. So if you look at this data, as I told you, that there is an iota of truth. So I'm not saying it's all propaganda, this is nonsense, and this is right-wing Hindu conspiracy. If you look at the facts, it is true that since 1951, Muslim populations in India have been rising faster than the Hindu population. Now, what is the evidence of that? The essential evidence of that, the basic evidence of that is that in 1951, 84.5% of India was Hindu. Today, as estimated by extrapolating the National Family Health Survey data and 2011 census, roughly 80%, that is 79.8%. So from 84% to 80%. So the percentage of Hindus overall as a proportion of India's population has declined by 4%. So it is wrong to say that anybody who says that the Hindu percentage has not gone down is lying. It is not propaganda. Once again, dismissing a truth or hiding from a truth doesn't serve any purpose, least of all that of liberalism or secularism or equality, constitutional equality. But see the other figures. I told you there's a little bit of smoke, but that smoke is also now fading. The other figure is, don't go right back to 1951. In fact, if you go even beyond 51, in the 30s and the 40s, then the number of Muslims are rising even faster than the Hindus. Since 1951, since India came into being, the birth rates have declined among both Hindus and Muslims. Until 1991, both were declining, but still the gap was not that small between the two. So if you look at the data that comes out of the 1991 census, so again extrapolated for 1992, in 1992, an average Muslim woman produced 4.4 kids in her reproductive age. 4.4 kids. An average Hindu woman produced 2.6 kids in her reproductive age. Now, obviously, nobody can produce 2.6 kids or 4.4 kids. So I will simplify it for you. 10 women in their reproductive age, if they were Hindus, produced 26 kids in 1992. And if they were Muslims, they produced 44 kids in 1992. So 10 women on this side, 10 women on this side. The number of kids produced, the difference was 18. And so the Muslim 10 women produced 18 more kids than 18 Hindu women. Look at what's happened now. Projected to now, it is much less. It is now 10 Hindu women produce 21 kids. So one Hindu woman now in her reproductive age produces 2.1 children. So 10 will produce 21 children. 10 Muslim women now produce only 26 children. Still more than the Hindu women. But where the difference was 18 just in 1992, it is now 5. And this gap is narrowing further. So first of all, yes, there was some truth that Muslim numbers were rising faster, because if that was not the case, then Hindu percentage would not have come down from 84 to 80, and Muslim percentage would not have gone up from about 10%, that is 9.8%, to 13.8%. So Hindu population declined by 4 percentage points, Muslim population increased in overall percentage by 4 percentage points. So that was a clear distinction. The Sikhs and the Christians remained about the same. So that was a clear distinction. But as you can see now, the current data tells you that politics is not needed. You don't have to enforce any birth control on the Muslims. Just as India is becoming less poor, just as more women are going to school and college, birth rates are coming down everywhere. Maybe India's Muslim populations were a bit behind the curve in terms of that social and economic development. As that is happening, they are catching up also. So first of all, overall numbers, you can see this chart, and I'm grateful to Pew Research because they produced these marvelous charts which we are allowed to borrow. So I'm borrowing these for you. Please see these charts on the screen as I talk. So you can see the Hindus have declined from say 84% to about 80%, and you can see the decline was a bit steeper earlier, but after that it's leveling off, and now it's almost leveled off. The Muslims, on the other hand, have gone up from 9.8% to say 13.8%, but as they are going up, once again you see it leveling off. So this gap is now narrowing. That's a very important thing. Second, look at net birth rates. That is number of babies produced by a woman in her reproductive years. So Muslims are at this point 2.6. That's why I said 10 women produce 26 kids against the national average of 2.2. Whereas Hindus are 2.1, which is just a little bit below the national average of 2.2. But you can see that if you just use basic statistical tools, that 2.1 will become 2.6 on a national average, because you will see the Muslims at 2.6. So that is a small skew, but the difference between Hindu and Muslim growth rates now is very small. What used to be, say, 1.8 per woman is now 0.5 per woman, and that is a very big difference. And the gap is narrowing. And then you can see Christians, for example, are 2, Buddhists 6 are about 1.6, and then very interestingly, the Jains are the slowest growing. They are 1.2, and they actually have seen the steepest decline in their birth rates. And you can understand that possibly because Jains have been ahead on the economic growth curve, economic and socio-economic growth curve. And it is well known across the world that as countries, societies, people becoming more well-to-do, better educated, richer, they produce fewer babies. Now, we have done a couple more episodes of CutTheClutter earlier using data from World Bank and using data from other research organizations, telling you or to explain how India's population growth has actually slowed down much faster than anybody had estimated, than even the optimists had estimated. And they are nowhere near all those who spread the scare saying will be so many people, what will happen, 200 crore, 250 crore, right? All those scare stories are not coming true. That's what all of the data tells us. And I can tell you that when we get the results of the 2022 census now, they will also say something else, something like that. They will also surprise us on the optimistic side, right? Because India has done very well. And once again, this Pew survey also tells you that, say, between 1951-61, India's population growth, that is for the decade, was 21.6%. Between 2001 and 11, it was 17.7%, and it is now declining from there. So that is the big difference that's come about in India. And in fact, India will reach replacement levels very soon. Replacement levels means when a country produces only as many babies as the number of people who pass away. And this reflects in everything. So to just give you an example, and you will see again a screenshot from the Pew survey, which we have marked, which tells you that birth rates also reflect in mean age. So in India, for example, the mean age, that is the average age of Indians, is about 28. In Pakistan, say it's about 23, right? In Afghanistan, it's 17. Why is it so? That is because the more babies a society produces, the less its average age. So in India, the mean age of the Hindus is 29 according to this survey. The mean age of the Muslims is 24. But as time goes ahead, you will find that this gap will now be narrowing. So India's movement is in a virtuous direction, whether Hindus or Muslims or Sikhs, Christians. In fact, this survey makes an interesting point. This survey buys into the idea that maybe Christians are undercounted a bit, particularly since OBC reservations. And that's because when an Indian of an OBC or a scheduled caste converts to Christianity, they lose their reservation benefit. So in censuses, quite a few people who might be Christian actually report themselves as Hindu so as to continue getting scheduled caste benefits. And these are the demands that Christians have had for a long time. But on the other hand, the Hindu side says that, look, if we allow reservation benefits to those who convert to Christianity on the promise that Christianity has no caste, then we are incentivizing conversion. So that is a different debate that goes on. Now I'll run through some more charts. Look at this chart. When you look at this chart, it's color coded. You will see where women produce more babies, which also tells you the state of development that those states or those regions have. So if you see the central belt in India, like the entire belly of India, that is where maximum number of babies are produced per woman, and that is Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Bihar. Bihar is the highest of all, 3.4. India's average is 2.2, Bihar is 3.4. And you can't even blame any particular faith for it, right? So that is what you see. Other states generally are getting their act together, and women are producing fewer and fewer babies. So once again, you know which states are underdeveloped. You can also see which big state is the most underdeveloped. That is Bihar, and if you address that, then all of India's population picture will change dramatically. Once again, this is a chart that tells you how the percentage of Muslims in India states has changed. And this chart shows you, as we had shown you the larger figure, Muslims have grown slightly as a share of the population in some Indian states. And these some Indian states, you can imagine, one is Kashmir, one is Assam, West Bengal, Haryana, which may be due to migration within India. But very interestingly, the hot button issues, which are West Bengal and Assam, where you say, oh, millions and millions of Bangladeshis have come in and demographic shift has taken place, and suddenly now these have become effectively Muslim majority states. Muslims have a veto on who will rule these states. These states are darker on this map. They are coded darker. That means the percentage of Muslims has increased. But let me also read for you. I read better without my glasses. In Assam, it has only increased by 3.3%, above the overall increase, just by 3.3%. That's all. That is the only difference between 2001 and 11. That is when people say a lot of immigration, etc., has been going on. In West Bengal, it's only gone up by 1.8%. So don't just look at these dark patches and this color coding and say, see, gotcha, we told you this. And similarly, numbers of Muslims have gone up in Kerala and a little bit in Goa, which again might be due to internal migration within India. But overall numbers, as I told you, are within what they are. Then see the percentage of Hindus in India states. And again, you can see it's color coded. You can see where they've gone up a little bit, and you can see where they've gone down a little bit. So once again, you can see that Hindus continue to be a very decisive, vast majority in all states of India except two. Also, Pew reminds us that 94% of all the Hindus in the entire world live in India. Of course, Nepal is the only other country in the world where Hindus are in a majority. So I think that is really unique for any major faith in the world. Now, having seen all this, let me just conclude by saying that debate is good. Raising questions is good, but it's always important to look at facts. So remember, as we keep on saying quite often, that in God we trust, the rest of you bring data. So we are bringing data for you, and let that tell us what's going on. And that also tells us that there is no communal or religion-based link to population growth. There is a socio-economic, political link to population growth. So look at Indonesia, the largest Muslim population. Is that rising humongously fast? Some African countries, it is rising, but that is not to do with the faith there. That is to do with the state of development and the state of the economic status there. Similarly, if we look at the subcontinent, about 40% of all of the world's Muslims live in the subcontinent between Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. But there, which is the country with the fastest growing population? It is Pakistan. So can you then say that, oh, Pakistan is the fastest growing in terms of population because it has such a vast Muslim majority? Because I'll give you the counterpoint with data with Bangladesh. Bangladesh also has a very vast Muslim majority. Its overall population growth at this point is even tending to be lower than India's. So once again, this is not a link with religion. This is a link with socio-economic status and politics, and also the quality of governance.